And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside Los
Angeles. I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Phone number 888-659-3727. It is great to be back live with you guys tonight. Welcome. 888-659-3727. Let's hope that everything is functioning properly tonight. We made some changes. Hopefully the phone lines are working. It's been a long haul since we moved to the new studio, but I definitely think that things have gotten a lot better. Listen, guys, if you're new to the broadcast, let me give out my spiel. Let me tell you guys why we're here, who I am. I am a consumer advocate for men and women who are dealing with hair loss. I'm a hair loss educator who has been dealing with his own hair loss for more than 2 decades. And, you know, the reason I got involved in this field is because when I was doing my research, when I was trying to find help for myself, especially back in the mid-'80s, mid to late '80s, it was an unbelievable cesspool of bullshit. Everyone wanted to sell me some bullshit lotion or potion, and I bought plenty of them. I spent thousands upon thousands of dollars. But even worse, in my view, was that there were wig salesmen and hair transplant surgeons at the time who were willing to basically, as far as, you know, the wig guys, shave my head and put a wig on me and had a full head of hair. And the hair transplant guys were willing to get me in that chair. Now, for whatever reason, back in the day, you know, I was like 22, 23 years old when I really started to have consults with these guys. And luckily, I, again, for whatever reason, had the wherewithal to step back and say, you know what, something is fucked up here. Something doesn't make sense. Now, I started in my own business, pretty early on in my life. I was a young entrepreneur at an early age. I had the money to basically do whatever I needed to do. I remember when I saw a doctor on the Lisa show, and that's how old I am, talking about that show, who was doing something called a free-formed jury flap. Basically, they would take a peninsula of hair from the side of your scalp and skin, of course, and scalp, and remove it completely, not just rotate it, but remove it completely, reconnect the blood supply and all that stuff, take out a trench of your forehead where you had your receding hairline, and implant that flap in the right direction as opposed to the connected type of jury flaps. And I thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread. It looked amazing because the doctor who was on the show actually had it done. I had a slight receding hairline. Back in the day, you know, I had a much lower hairline, and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to get back my low, teenage hairline. This is it. I'm flying out to Los Angeles, and I'm going to get this done. I have a consultation with this guy, and I have to say this guy was extremely honest. But I sat down and I started to ask him questions. I guess a lot of questions that maybe the average person wouldn't ask. But the one question I did ask him was when he was explaining the procedure and possible complications that I was asking him about, I said, do you have any pictures of failed procedures? Do you have any images that I can see of guys who went through this procedure who had disastrous results? And he said that he didn't have any of his own because he's been lucky enough never to have a failed flap. But he does have some images of failed flaps if I'd like to see them. And he said to me, you know, I have had consultations with 50-year-old men, guys who have been around the block who never even thought of asking that question. And, since then, he decided that, it's something that he was going to, put into his consultation protocol to let people know what the reality is. But when I saw the possibility of a failed flap, when I saw the possibility of complete or partial necrosis, where I would be stuck wearing a hairpiece for the rest of my life, just to get 1.5 inches back of my hairline, I thought to myself, what the fuck is going on here? This is ridiculous to take a risk like this. Now, since then, this particular doctor doesn't do that procedure anymore. He's not in the hair world. He's a mainstream, well-known plastic surgeon, one of the nicest guys, one of the most ethical guys I've ever met in cosmetic surgery. He had it done himself, so he really believed in the procedure. But, after a while, after speaking, he said, look, you really don't need it, and you asked all the right questions, and you know what, just try to deal with it and move on, and if you need my help in the future, just give me a call. The reason I'm bringing this up is that there are so many people out there who have been harmed because they haven't asked the right questions. The Bald Truth was published in 1998. And not to pat myself on the back, but this is just the truth. Before that point, there was no mainstream publication that completely described all of the bullshit that was happening in the world of surgical hair restoration. Now, anyone around that time who really was going to do their due diligence, because the internet was in its infancy, but as soon as you looked up hair loss or hair loss books, my book came up. If anyone was out there who was doing their due diligence, they would have found my book and they would have picked it up, like countless people have over the years in 5 different languages across the world. And they would have known not to take that step, to step back and say, fuck, this, these procedures are outdated. These procedures are, something that really shouldn't be performed, like the Brandy scalp lift, for instance. I had a phone consultation with them too. And just when they described what they were going to do, I was like, all right, thanks a lot, guys. It's not going to happen. But sadly, there were a lot of people in the day that didn't have the wherewithal. And sadly, today it's the same. But today we have so much information out there at our fingertips. Back then you had to go into a bookstore and you had to pick up my book. You had to go online and look up, specific things, Actually, I will tell you the truth. In 98, 99, I already had a presence online on other people's websites and the book became very popular. So anyone who actually did any research besides just, looking at an ad in the back of a newspaper or picking up the phone, they wouldn't have been screwed up. I guess my point is, today we have so much at our fingertips. Yet every day someone contacts us, either through the American Hair Loss Association or through the IHRS or through the Bald Truth, who has been screwed. Not just, they're disappointed with the results, but I'm talking about royally screwed. People are still getting these archaic procedures done. People who are still, flying off to other parts of the world to get hair transplants on the cheap. People who are allowing, technicians who have no medical license to perform the entire procedure on them. I'm not just talking about placing grafts. I'm talking about cutting the scalp, performing surgery. People who are going into med spas and having, automated procedures done by just a staff of technicians. How is that possible in today's world with so much information at our fingertips? And I'm sorry if I sound frustrated, but I read what goes on online. I was reading the forum today a little bit. I was just going through all the emails, and a lot of the emails, the really bad emails, or the people that really need a lot of help, they're forwarded to me. And I'm in contact with these people and counsel these people and try to give them, some guidance. But sometimes it's just too late, man. So that's what this program is about. Obviously, it's about venting and talking about hair loss and talking about future treatments and everything that is hair loss. But it's also about giving you the knowledge to make an educated decision. If you're 22 years old, in my view, don't get a fucking hair transplant, no matter what type of hair transplant it is. A young guy thinks to himself, oh, you know what? Why doesn't anybody want to give me a hair transplant? Why are all these doctors turning me down? Why can't I just get my hairline back? Because honestly, at 22, guys, you really cannot make that decision yet. I hate to say it. I know I sound like my father. But you don't know if you're going to want that decision or want to live with that decision when you're 35 or 40. If you're 30, 35 years old, you know, you're probably in a better place in life. You're not quite as desperate to get your hair back. Then, you know, there's opportunity there for you, I think, to really make a good decision. But I think if you're under 35 years old, for instance, I don't know if I wouldn't get a strip. Probably opt for an FUE procedure if you're considering surgical hair restoration. But if you're in your 40s and you're in your 50s and you understand the total scope and possible pitfalls of surgery, I think these are the guys that make the best candidates, who aren't so fucking desperate to get their hair back, who have lived a little bit of life and said, you know what, it's harder without your hair, but you can live life without your hair. And now I just want to give myself a bonus. I want life plus. These are the guys we get the least complaints from. Even the guys that go to large chain clinics, the older guys seem to be like, all right, you know what? Maybe I didn't get as much hair as I wanted, but it's pretty good. I feel better. So please, all of you young guys out there who are considering surgical hair restoration, just take a step back. Realize that you are the luckiest generation as far as hair loss sufferers are concerned to date, because of what's coming down the pike and also because of all the information we have and really the higher end technology we have with surgical hair restoration. Very lucky compared to when I was younger. But just because it's out there, just because it's on the tin, just because it's being advertised as, you know, a better type of surgery, whatever it is, it doesn't mean that it's right for you. And again, I'm going to take a call in a second, but the reason I'm talking about this is, you know, for whatever reason this week, it's actually been the last 2 or 3 months, getting so many emails from guys who are just unhappy with the decisions that they've made. And they're all really young, like under the age of 25, under the age of 26. They're like, yeah, you know what, I have a nice improvement, but now I'm concerned about the scar on the back of my head. Then why did you do it? 888-659-3727. I know Joe is calling in. He called in early. I know there's some interesting news that he wants to talk about. Let me see if this is Joe. Hey, man, you're on the air.
Good evening. It is me. Good evening, hair loss sufferers.
Joe, it's good to hear your voice, bro.
If you don't mind, I'm sorry, Spencer.
It's good to hear your voice. Now, is my phone breaking up, or is it okay tonight?
100% tonight. Give you A+.
That's great.
Now, if you don't mind, before I report the blockbuster news I have to report tonight, I have a brief statement to make, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to castigate certain people of the hair loss community who are constantly posting about Histigens, Adirans, Repicel, and Follica. Obviously, these guys don't know what they're talking about, as I will prove in a few minutes. Now, you guys remember this show, Hogan's Heroes, Spencer? I'm sure you remember that.
Of course, man. It was one of my favorite shows as a kid.
Sergeant Schultz?
Yeah.
Before the Commandant Clique?
Yes.
This is what I think of the people, some of the people on the hair loss forums. And when I get my blockbuster report, I will prove my point.
Okay.
You know what you guys know, as Sergeant Schultz would say? I hear nothing. I see nothing, Commandant. I know nothing. Thank you, Spencer.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
My name is excuse me. My name is
Would you like to may I reiterate it?
My name is
Have you heard it? Excuse me.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
Joe, you know, the sad truth is that's just the way that it is. You know, I went on the forums today, as I do on Tuesdays if I'm doing a live show. I'm reading I got to tell you, I read all the nonsense and the craziness and the desperateness. I'm like, it never changes. It's like no matter what we do, no matter what we put out there, no matter how many shows we've put out there, it's kind of like, oh, you know what, let's just ignore the reality of the situation, because obviously these guys who are out there putting this information out to the mainstream, like us, Joe, and some other people, but mostly us, we don't know what we're talking about. Being conservative, saying, hey, you know what, man, you want to think these technologies are going to come to fruition. But it may not happen today. It may not happen tomorrow. Live your life now. Don't just sit on the fucking forums and waste away debating over shit you don't know. They don't know anything about it. It's amazing to me. And you know what's funny? There are some guys who are really great posters, and then the guys that really take a lot of time to post, they're kind of looked at as gods in the message forum world. And sadly, even the guys that are reasonable, that take a lot of time to post and do their research, they don't necessarily know what's going on. Well, they don't know what's going on. It's all speculative.
They're posting their opinions. That's what they're posting.
Right, and these poor young guys are just, they hinge on and hang on every word. When all they have to do is give us a call and say, hey, what's going on with Adirans? What's going on with Histogen? What's going on with Follica? We'll tell them what's going on and say, you know what? It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's all happening. These guys that are saying that all these technologies are dead, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about either.
Spencer, as you know, I'm a hair loss expert. I can't say when Adirans could be here tomorrow. I could be here 3 years from now. I don't know.
Well, let's talk about what happened this week.
Okay, as you know, it's been I'm utterly exhausted. I've been sleeping all day. Between the Histogen news and Follica news and the Dr. Castigates news, let me get to the blockbuster news first, which is, of course, Follica.
Right.
As the experts at the Hair Loss Forum said, Follica was dead. Sorry, guys, you morons were wrong, as usual.
Don't call them morons. That's their job to call people morons. You got to take.
I'm so upset.
You've got to take the high road on this program, dude.
Okay, you uninformed people. Is that better, Spencer?
Much better.
I apologize to you millions of listeners. You forgive me?
Yeah, of course.
What?
Of course I do.
Well, Spencer, your smile is beautiful, time, by the way. Your teeth look really beautiful.
Dude, stop it. I appreciate that, but will you just go on?
Okay, this is really blockbuster news. As you know, certain members have said Follica is dead. Obviously, they're not. The news is in. I'd say I went through 100 articles the past 2 days about Follica.
Right.
Okay, here's the bottom line. Then I'll get more into it. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Follica has been, as I said, Spencer. You can have the engineers go back in the archives. As I said, silence is golden. Remember I said about Follica?
Absolutely.
They ain't speaking because they have something up their sleeve. Remember me saying that?
Of course.
They ain't saying nothing. That proved to me that they were holding something big.
Look, the truth is, and Castigates said it right, that they really have to keep things close to their vest. They have to be careful how they deliver news and information. And I personally believe, while it's wonderful that there are companies out there like Retrocell who are willing to come on, or I mean, not as much as they used to because of all the craziness that goes on in the forum, but they're willing to come out and kind of give people and drip feed people information. I personally think that, again, while that's great, companies like Adirans and companies like Follica, they're not going to do it. They have to be careful how they deliver the news because there's such crazy responses out there that, we see it on our forum. We see what happens. We see the speculation and the disappointment and just the people that are hinging on their life can't move forward unless they have this. And that's unfortunate. We know that these companies are moving forward. Will there be a product in the end? I personally think so. But there's always a possibility that something won't work.
Well, all right, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can I get to the blockbuster statement I have to make?
Yeah, you can. Are you on pills tonight? Are you a little loaded tonight? What's going on?
Well, actually, I'm in a very celebratory mood, Spencer. I've injected several milligrams of Xanax, I've been drinking to celebrate the news, man. Because I've been living for this news.
Oh, good for you. There's certain people out there that don't like to hear you talking about your drug use or your self-medicating.
Well, I'm sure 99% of your viewers are on some type of psychotropic drugs, man. They all suffer.
Unfortunately, that is the truth.
Right. For the first time, Follica put out a press release yesterday, excuse me. It's been all over the internet, all over CBS, Market Watch, all over Dermatology Times, all over everything. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in history, Follica is in phase 2A studies. They have performed follicular neogenesis on human beings.
That's correct.
My God.
Well, listen, it is exciting news. And for those of you who kind of are new to Follica...
Blockbuster.
Yeah, but for those of you who are new to Follica, really, what Kosteralis was able to prove back in the University of Pennsylvania when this whole thing started was that when you created a certain wounds on the scalp, even if you just created a very surface wound, hair follicles can then grow into that. There's kind of like a certain period of time where hair follicles can grow into that fresh wound. And what they discovered recently is that basically like a fibroblast protein that when introduced to this wound will actually generate hair follicles. They kind of figured it out.
FG9.
Say that again?
FG9, but that's something different. That's a separate study. I'm not trying to contradict you.
No, it's okay, but that's exciting stuff. That's extremely exciting stuff. But go ahead.
What Follica, as we stand today, and their previous phase 2 studies that they've done secretly, they have they have some type of device that creates wounds in the scalp.
Right.
They've been using unknown chemicals, not FG9. This is something new.
Right.
Where they've grown multiple new hair follicles.
Right, but
now
this
Dr. Kosteralis. I'm sorry, Spencer.
No, go ahead. I'll let you explain.
Now, in concert with this, Dr. Kosteralis published yesterday, in addition to this, which I'm sure is not a coincidence. I'm sure it's more to it. I'm sure it's on the same lines. That when a mouse is wounded, the scalp is wounded, they grow back numerous hairs because they possess a fibroblast called FG9, which humans lack.
Right.
That's why when a human scalp is wounded, it will only proliferate scar tissue. But Dr. Kosteralis has proven when FG9 is introduced into a scalp wound, it will reproduce multiple new hair follicles in scar tissue.
Within a very limited, you have a very limited window to make that happen.
Yes,
and they also figured that out, which is huge. Huge. It's a huge.
Alarming.
Yeah, it's a huge step forward. And for all the guys in the forums, in the forum world who are saying, we got to wait another 20 years, whatever it is, look how much closer we are. This is real, man. This is for real. Now, does that mean put your life on hold until this comes to fruition? Until this is a treatment that we could all have? No, don't. That's ridiculous. Live your life. Glue some hair on. Get a hair transplant. Whatever you need to do, if you're a candidate, of course. Take medication, but don't stay on the. Listen, as much traffic as you guys bring, baldtruthtalk.com. And again, I got to thank you for making it the most trafficked hair loss site, let alone forum, but hair loss site in the world. I would prefer I would prefer you not to spend so much time on that site. And that's the God's honest truth. I would prefer you to go out and live your effing lives. Come back once a month. Check things out. Don't sit there and fight with each other about shit you don't know. Go ahead, Joe.
But Spencer, this Follica stuff is so close that it's like a year or two away because this stuff doesn't need FDA approval. The chemicals that they're using are already FDA approved with the scalp wounding device. This is different than the FG2. This is something else.
Right. Listen, Joe, it's exciting, but I don't want to give anybody false hope. It's very exciting news, but I don't want to give anybody false hope. But I do believe that we are closer than we've ever been, and that's exciting. People should be excited, but they shouldn't be staying up at night, spending their entire time in front of a fucking computer screen. They should go out and live life.
Stop talking about me, Spencer, man. I appreciate that.
I know that you did.
I'm quite offended by that. I'm only kidding. No, but the bottom line is, these guys in the forums, obviously, they said Follica was dead, so they know nothing. Now, I'm going to get to part 2 of my news. Histogen. These guys say Histogen failed? How can you say Histogen failed? All they said was they were doubling the dosage of the injections.
Exactly.
And the more intervals, and they're achieving greater hair growth, 49.5% death to the increase. This is a failure? Are you guys insane, or am I insane? Maybe you could elaborate.
Well, you are insane, Joe, but I don't think that's
true. Yes,
I don't think
you're not ignorant.
Yeah, I don't think you're incorrect about this, and I think again, it's all about disappointment and being desperate. I understand it, man. I understand the disappointment. I understand the reality of saying, "Oh shit, I'm losing my hair," and if something doesn't change, I'm going to be a bald guy. Now, in my case, I took Finasteride, and it's been great for me. It's changed my life. I was using minoxidil for a long time and some other stuff, but I would say that the secret to my success has been success and being a good responder to Finasteride. There are thousands upon thousands of guys who are. In this younger hair loss culture, everyone is so shit scared to take it, and I don't blame them because of all the stuff you read online. But so they're hinging their hopes on this other these other technologies that they're hoping that won't cause them any type of possible adverse side effects, which I'm sure they won't. But meanwhile, by the time this stuff comes out, say it does take 3 years. Say conservatively it takes 2 or 3 years. A lot of these guys are really going to be dealing with a lot of pain for the next 2 or 3 years, especially the guys who are 23 or 24, especially the guys who are really in the prime of their lives and just kind of becoming recluses and being so self-conscious about the way they look, when they can kind of go out, maybe cut their hair short, try medication, spend time, developing their career, developing their bodies, developing their personalities. Let me tell you something. Sitting in front of this screen, arguing with a bunch of, anonymous people, that's not developing your personality. Frankly, what it's doing for most of these young guys, it's destroying their personality. They're not socializing themselves. They're getting involved with a group of really, and I hate to say it, but I'm one of them, and I was one of them for a long time, especially in the old alt.bald spot days, of fringe individuals, guys who are just so hyper focused on one aspect of their life that most of them will never get out of that. And sadly,
yes,
Joe, you're one of those guys.
I'm a victim of that situation. I've been recluse for the past 40 years due to horrifying disease.
I actually went out to a local steakhouse, and I don't know if Brian from Los Angeles is listening, or if he's on the line. Yeah, holding on. But I saw this cat. And I actually, I surprised him. I asked for him when I was there. And the guy, really together, he's not that young, but, together younger, he's younger than me, significantly younger. Guy who's, good-looking cat, just, very personable, and obviously very concerned about his hair loss, which is minimal at best. But he's on Finasteride, so, that's probably helped him a lot. But what I noticed about this guy is, he calls into the show and he has a lot of interesting stories and he talks about his insecurities and all that stuff, just like we all have. But he's out there working, living life. I'm sure he's out there, having a lot of fun with women and just, developing himself, because you can tell that whatever insecurities he has, he still has developed a great personality. And I was thinking to myself, and I always do this when I see younger Norwoods. I'm like, how is he making it? Now, meanwhile, he has a lot of hair still, but he's obviously concerned about the prospect of going bald. But how is he doing it? And all these other cats can't do it. Or how was I able to do it when, honestly, let's face it, right now I guess the hairstyle is okay, but when you're, 25 and you have a quasi comb over and with a ton of hairspray, it's not the coolest hairstyle in the world. A lot of guys couldn't get past that, having to hide their hair loss and still live a life. What separates certain people from, being able to live with whatever shortcomings they have and insecurities they have and develop their lives even with that, and the guys that kind of just, hide behind, live behind closed doors. I mean, what do you think? Yeah, but what do you think it is, Joe? Because you are on that end of the spectrum, except you still got married, dude. You still had kids. You got worse.
Unfortunately.
You had other, psychiatric issues that were coupled with your hair loss that, made you even more hyper-focused on your hair loss. I mean, again, I'm not a physician, but that's how I'm diagnosing you,
Are you a psychiatrist?
as a layman.
Well, as you know, our good friend Dr. Feller diagnosed me as having a body dysmorphic disorder. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Say that again?
Our good friend Dr. Feller diagnosed me as having body dysmorphic disorder.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. And I'm listening.
No,
I'm looking at JJ UK's comment. They think Spencer makes a good point that Finn leaves you dealing with a comb over. I will tell you this, that when I started to take Finasteride, I had less hair. So for me, having to hide my hair loss a little bit and not progress really slowly progress for the last 25 years, that is a blessing. So I think that most guys would probably be pretty happy with being able to halt their hair loss. And I think that a lot of the younger guys, because they're so scared of taking it, and again, I'm not here to tell you to take this drug, but I think a lot of guys are doing themselves a great disservice, because when these treatments come to fruition, or when if people decide to have a hair transplant, you have so much more to work with.
Well, Spencer, can I actually just one more personal question? I know other calls on the line. It's a personal question about myself.
No, I want to talk to you, Joe. I haven't spoken to you live in a while, so.
Well, that was actually 2 weeks ago, right? That was not so long ago, was it?
Well, you know what? I'm not doing the show live every week now. I'm traveling back and forth to New York to see my
your family problems.
See my family, and don't be upset if I don't call you, because I didn't call Andrew. I'm not calling anybody. Go ahead.
No, so we can communicate by email. It's not a problem. It's not a problem.
So tell me, what's your question?
Oh, as you know, in 1976, I was chemically castrated by Dr. Jotronic with female hormones, spironolactone. I couldn't achieve erection. I was growing breasts. I was actually, being transformed into a woman, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And chemically castrated for over a year and a half, progesterone shots, the whole thing. And
I was offered all that stuff.
And I still felt out.
Yeah, I was offered all of that shit at his office. And again, that was another, I was just like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Well, I did blood tests, my DHT levels were virtually zero.
Yeah.
Yet I still lost my hair.
Yeah, but you know what they're finding out, that some of the hormones that were being injected into your body, especially the synthetic hormones, actually can cause hair loss. I bet you didn't know that. And obviously
cause hair loss?
And actually Dr. Norman Orenreich probably didn't know that at the time, until he had patients like you who are like, wait a second, I have breasts now and I'm still losing my hair?
And I couldn't achieve erection.
Yeah.
And my nephew, I told you, he's been on Propecia, Rogaine, and now he's in 086. I mean, why does it work for some people and not for other people? What's the reason?
We really don't. I'm obviously I'm not a physician. We really don't know. It's kind of like I think genetically there are those where dehydrated testosterone really is a stronger component to their hair loss, as opposed to the guys who are they're getting it from all different facets of what's happening in their body. Their genes are just that much stronger. I pretty sure that, at least in my case, genetics are heavily involved. I think that, my family history of hair loss, all the uncles on my father's side had severe hair loss at a young age. Norwood 6s and 7s by the time they were 40, 35. But balding all the way through. My dad actually kept most of his hair for many, many years, except he had a bald spot. So he was able to comb his hair back, and you never really knew he was bald. His brothers all had a full head of hair until his two brothers died, and he has another brother that's still alive that has a full head of hair. My cousins all have, for the most part, they all had full heads of hair until they were in their 50s. My brother and I were, I started to lose it very young. My brother started to lose it he was probably in his 30s when he started to lose it. But I think that the progression was relatively slow for both of us. So I was in a position where I think genetically, for whatever reason, I was in a better position than some other guys to treat it with finasteride and achieve really what I consider stellar results without any adverse side effects that I'm aware of. Now, people talk about fatigue and all kinds of stuff. I get tired all the time. I don't know. I mean, what is it? Is it because I drank too much the night before, or is it because of finasteride? Is it because I'm 48 years old, or is it because of finasteride? Is it, you could attribute, side effects and whether it's brain fog, which I just had right now, by the way, or, erectile dysfunction to anything. And I'm not saying that the drug doesn't cause this stuff, but in my case, I firmly believe that I've had no adverse side effects yet. I don't know what the fuck is going to happen to me in 10 years. I don't know if I'm going to be, I'm going to have some sort of bizarre disease that that's going to be caused by finasteride use. I'm hoping that it's not going to happen. I highly doubt that it will, but I guess it's a possibility. I
don't think 10 years you're using finasteride, Spencer. I mean, if we're still talking about finasteride 10 years now, we'll just kill ourselves now.
Well, what? I mean, do you think I'm going to get off the drug just because something new comes about? I mean, unless I know for sure that I'm going to be able to keep every hair that I saved, besides adding more, I'm not getting off the drug. When I'm in a nursing home, they're going to have to give it to me intravenously.
Well, let me see. One thing quickly about finasteride, one comment I wanted to make. My father's 85 years old. He has a full head of hair. He has a head of hair around Reagan, as you know.
Yeah.
I don't have a strong family history of hair loss. Yet, I'm a non-responder to everything. I mean... Yeah, but let's face it. You started taking finasteride pretty late in your hair loss. You had already had several hair transplants. You started to lose your hair in the 70s. So, I mean, come on, Joe. I mean, I think it's kind of unfair to make that assessment. You're not going to grow your hair back from finasteride. It's very, very rare that people actually get significant regrowth. I have spoken with, and I've actually saw one guy who had a crazy amount of, he had so much, he was going to actually get a hair transplant. He was put on finasteride, and a year later, he didn't need a hair transplant. That's how much hair he grew back. So I've seen that before. But in your case, you lost most of your hair by the time you started to take it, right? Yeah, but I'm expert opinion. I believe that if I would take it at 18, it wouldn't help me either. To be honest with you, that's my opinion. I would have been a non-responder. My nephew, perfect case. He's on it for 2 years. He was in Norwood 1, now he's in Norwood 6. How can that be explained? It didn't work for him, right?
No, it didn't work for him. We know it didn't work.
I mean, the kid's suicidal at this point. He's blaming me and you, by the way. He brought your name up today.
Why is he blaming me?
Because you told him about how great it is, and he said it didn't work for him.
Yeah, but it can't. Why is he blaming me? What did I do? I didn't tell him to take it. I didn't tell him it was going to work for him.
No, he says I said Spencer said it works in some cases. I said, blame someone, blame me. I prescribed it to him. I'm not a physician, but I put him on it. A 5% Rogaine. The kid lost it all, and he's suicidal. He hates the show, and he hates me. He's very bitter.
Well, I feel bad for the kid, but he's not alone. There's so many guys who take the drug and you try minoxidil, and it just doesn't work for them. Sometimes using minoxidil, can speed up the process, especially at the beginning. It really depends. I'm not a huge fan of minoxidil. I usually tell people to not use it initially, But if someone has really aggressive, and again, I'm not a doctor, but if someone has really aggressive hair loss, most doctors will prescribe the combination of Propecia and minoxidil. So I think the advice that you gave was very reasonable, Joe. And your nephew can't blame you for the medication not working for him. He's just, one of the unfortunate ones.
I told him it may work, it may not. I'm not. There is no cure. I told him that, not yet. It's a chance you have to take. It's better than doing nothing. I told him, and now he's just freaking out. I mean,
well, I understand. I listen. I understand why he's freaking out. He's miserable. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. But I mean, does he? I mean. What else? What other attributes does he have physically? Does he exercise?
No, he's dropped out of college. He quit his job. He's bedridden, and he wears a turban all day and a hat, and he refuses to leave his house. Sound familiar?
So why don't you guys hang out and play chess or something?
The kid is blaming me. He said, "Uncle Joe, you're a hell of an expert. You're a superstar on the radio, and you can't help me."
Dude, do you know how many thousands and thousands of people who just can't be helped? No matter how much information that we provide them, and I say this all the time, there is a percentage of guys that will never be helped. So if you take anything from this program, I think the most important thing is, first thing you guys need to do is try to shave your head, move on with your life. Try to shave your head and move on with your life. Forget about treating your hair loss. Turn off the radio. Well, we're not doing the radio, but turn off your computer. Just don't go on the message forums and try to live your life as a bald guy. That's your first step. I don't think your first step should be treating it with minoxidil or Propecia. Your first step is to just forget about it and just give into it. Take over.
That's definitely very true. Now, one more quick point on the calls. Can you just clear up the Histogen controversy? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. There's nothing to clear. There's no controversy.
It's good news. People say it's a fail. How is it a fail when they report all this great news? I don't understand.
Look, they're saying Replicel's a failure, but now they're getting involved with this other company. So they're like, oh, wait a second, there's something must be going on that's positive. Otherwise, this company wouldn't have invested, 300 million yen or whatever it is, which is, I guess, about $3.5 million.
Sashido is the other company, Spencer. Sashido.
Yeah, I mean, listen, these guys don't know shit. That's just the way that it is. But I understand their desperateness. I understand how they feel. I understand that they need a place to vent and to talk about, these issues. But just to hang on every word that some anonymous person puts on an internet forum, it never made any sense to me. It just doesn't.
You're definitely corrected by that, Spencer.
All right, man. Listen, we're going to take a break, Joe.
Let me say this in any other calls. We reiterate what I said to you guys on the forums. As Solomon Schultz said, I know nothing, I hear nothing, I see nothing. Stop the shit, you idiots. Thank you, Spencer.
Thank you, Joe.
The winner of 7 prestigious Golden Forehead Awards.
My family's always arguing. It always starts off innocent, and then it gets vicious right away. So I was like, hey, looks like you're losing some hair. At least my wife's not a whore.
Spencer David Kobren.
You never gave us a chance to be, and I don't need you.
Hey guys, welcome back. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Give us a call here at The Bald Truth. You have any questions, concerns about your hair loss? That's what we're here for. Look, besides being a place to vent, this is, in my view, the place to get completely objective information. This is a place where you're not going to get steamrolled. You're not going to be pushed into a product or a service. If you decide to get a certain type of a hair transplant, no one is going to bust your balls about that. This is a safe place to learn and to share and to be honest about your situation, to talk about a situation that society doesn't allow us to talk about. When I tell people in my social circle or, when I'm meeting new people about what I do, initially they think it's insane. But in the end, they all want to talk about their personal situation or the struggles of their husband or their wife or their children. I know how much hair loss affects those who are dealing with it because I'm a hair loss sufferer myself. And that is why this show has been on the air for 14 years. That is why we have a hair loss message forum that is one of the most popular sites on the internet. Crazy. Seems crazy, right? Obviously, it's no YouTube. But I'm talking about in general. It's a very well-trafficked site. 888-659-3727. I'm going to take some phone calls. If you have any questions, concerns, please feel free to call in. Let's see. This new board really screws me up. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
This is such a crazy business that I moved to a different country, changed my career, and 10 years later, I'm still doing this crazy shit called hair restoration consultation.
It is crazy, dude. You know how crazy it really is.
It's 10 years doing the same job, you'd think that you've seen it all. That you come in and it's just doing the same old thing over and over.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you it's the furthest thing from the truth. It's why I still love doing what I do because I meet really cool people. I meet some really weird people. It never is the same thing twice.
Well, what I find fascinating, and I've spoken to you about this before. By the way, if you don't know who this is Joe Tillman, Jotronic. Is his online handle. What'd you say?
That's my new thing. Anytime someone says my name, I pop in and Jotronic. That's my new thing.
All right, that's cool.
Whatever.
I kind of get it. And
it's been a long day. I'm kind of tired, but what do you do?
Hey, you're a guy that it really is in the trenches. You're a guy that sees it all. You're a guy who speaks to people behind the scenes. You know the inside and the outside of everything. You also know where all the bones are buried in the industry.
Yeah, I put some of them there myself.
It is a really, really wacky place full of, there's some great people who are involved really helping people. And there's some people who aren't so great, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are those who are out there just, they don't know what the hell's going on, and they think that they do.
And there's some that are pure evil incarnate. Absolute, Darth Vader would seem like Hello Kitty next to some of these people.
That is the God's honest truth. And unfortunately, I've dealt with many of them. But I think more importantly, let's talk about some of the stuff that you see in your, in Hassan Wong's clinic. I mean, you are seeing guys, and a lot of your work is repair work. And I'm assuming that a lot of the work that you do, now you guys are basically a strip-only clinic for the most part. You do some small, FUE stuff, right?
Yeah, here and there. I mean, we even, I'm the guinea pig, right? I'm the resident guinea pig, and it's like Dr. Wong did some body hair on me back in January,
right?
And he used the Harris drill, the handheld device that Bob came up with,
the safe system,
and
not Bob.
What's it called? Safe.
Jim.
Safe,
Jim Harris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Jim Harris. Yeah. 0.8 millimeter punch on my chest, and here we are a few months later, and you can't tell. There's absolutely zero evidence, which is cool. The growth, it'll probably be crap because it's body hair.
Right.
But it was just kind of like we're bored. What the hell, you know? Which is one of the cool things about working here. If I need some work and they're bored and they got nothing better to do, I'll get a few hairs here and there. But
yeah, I think that's a good perk, dude. Come on, people
it is
love
a good perk. It is a good perk. But yeah, I mean, we are primarily strip, and
that's very controversial now especially in the online world. It's very, very controversial, and I'm here to tell you that, and I get a lot of shit for speaking the truth about the reality of surgical hair restoration. But the reality is, I have seen some stellar FUE work. I was the biggest, and I'm going to repeat myself, the biggest proponent for FUE in the world, and I will pat myself on the back. And the truth is, I helped to introduce it to the doctors who basically wrote the first paper, and all the U.S. guys and all the European guys, because I really believed in it. But I also believe that there is no bigger bang for your buck. I have never seen a pure FUE hair transplant that ever compared, in my view, from the ones that I've seen in person, to either a really great strip or a hybrid of a strip and FUE. Strip, in my view, for that really crazy, full-looking head of hair, it just seems like strip has to be involved. But guys don't want to believe that.
Well, look, I mean, look, FUE has, there are some good doctors out there doing some good FUE work, but I stand on record, until someone can pull out a repair case like my own with just FUE, then it'll always be secondary. In my opinion, I mean, FUE could not even come close to do for me what strip has done for me with Dr. Wong. It was strip that put me in the position I was in to begin with, the need to get majorly repaired, but it was strip that saved me.
Right. Now I just realized apparently I lost my video on Skype. Let me see if it's working now. Hold on for 1 second. My video. Can you see me?
I see you, but you're very choppy. You're like 3 frames per second.
That's really weird. All right, let me restart. Hold on for 1 second, guys. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. Now, Suncast, what should I do? Should I hang up with you and then you call me back? Sorry, Joe.
Yeah.
Hold on for a second.
No worries.
Give me a little turn off your video and then turn it back on. All right, so let's try to do that. Oh, that just... All right, there you go. How's that? All right, so go finish your thought, dude. So you were talking about the fact that there's no way that you could ever get a repair the way that because you were really fucked up. You were really, really fucked up. It's amazing. Your picture out there.
And my hair looked bad too. Anyway,
look, I'm a believer of that. And you know what? It's not a popular stance. And there are guys who are in the IHRS that are really just focused on FUE, and I think that's great because there's a large percentage of patients who will not have a strip, and that's fine. There should be guys who are doing pure FUE work because they need to get really good at that. And the guys who are doing that are really good at that. But you got a guy like, Bijan Ferdouni in Brussels, who, I speak to on the telephone. And the truth is he's obviously a huge believer in FUE, but he still thinks that not only is strip an important part of his practice, he still believes that, for many patients, that is the way to go. Now, I think he's definitely leaning towards FUE for younger patients, which I am too, because I think that at least it gives people the opportunity to kind of step back and think about whether or not they want to do the full Monty, so to speak, when they're young, and they won't have to be left with a linear scar. So maybe going in there and just kind of giving them a feel for what hair transplantation can do with FUE is always a good first step. But I just think it's important that there's options, but there's no doubt in my mind, and this is, again, not a popular thing to say, that you just cannot get 100% of the sweet spot with FUE, no matter what some doctors say. And I think that doctors have to go outside of what's known as a safe zone in order to get those numbers. I was speaking to Bob Bernstein probably about 2 weeks ago. He actually said that he saw a patient that these guys actually took hair out of the crown via FUE and put it in his hairline.
Oh, I've seen that myself.
Yeah.
I've seen that in some of the results posted by some clinics where I just shake my head. It's like it's clearly inside the domain of the crown, and it's even a thinning crown at that. But I've still seen extraction points where the hair has been moved.
Yeah.
And put into recipient sites for hopefully a permanent result that, in my opinion, won't be permanent.
In my opinion, it won't be permanent either. But, the thing is, these guys are really, they're desperate. And there is a certain, listen, if you're young and you read about all this scarless surgery, I mean, what's funny about cosmetic surgery in general, the way that cosmetic surgery is marketed, it's always about the next greatest thing. It's always about the next greatest device, or it's something, that they tout as an innovation, when in fact it really is something that, might be beneficial to some degree, but it really is about marketing and selling that particular device as a marketing tool. For instance, we know about, some of the automated FUE machines that are out there, and they're marketed as a procedure. For instance, like the NeoGraft procedure. A lot of guys, if you pick up a in-flight magazine, you're going to read about the NeoGraft. Now, in the right hands, a NeoGraft is a fine device. It really is. I've known guys who use it. They understand, they've been performing hair transplantation for many, many years. They have the right staff. They take out the grafts. The grafts look fine. They're robust grafts, whatever. They're being implanted correctly. Great. But it's not a procedure. It's not what's new and cutting edge in my view. It's just a device that removes grafts, and that's it. And there's several, like you mentioned, the SAFE system. Go ahead.
Let me give you my opinion of NeoGraft. Okay, there are, it can be the machine itself can be fine if it's used properly by someone that knows what's going on, and you don't, if there's not any desiccation drying out of the grafts during the extraction process. But here's the problem. This machine has been whored out to so many clinics that didn't even have anything to do with hair restoration to begin with.
That's right.
At a bargain basement price of, I think it's like $80,000, which is nothing. For clinics to get into this. And the one marketing angle that they've been using is no strip scar.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's exactly what it is, and that's exactly the market.
When you magazine, I know the ad you're talking about, because I actually ripped the ad out and scanned it, and it's on my website. Where it's the back of two heads. One's got a strip scar and one doesn't. It's all Photoshop, but
well, I don't know that for sure. But that's your opinion.
No strip scar. That's it. There's no picture of the result, no nothing, and there's a list of doctors at the bottom that all chipped in for this ad,
right?
And they're all using the same photos as results on their own websites, if they even have photos to begin with. Which I thought was amazing.
Well, it is amazing because we understand the industry, but if you're a balding guy and you're flying to Vegas, you pick up this in-flight magazine, and you're like, wait a second, I can get a scarless hair transplant. What do you think you're going to do? Of course you're going to do it.
You're going to make a beeline for it. It's an easy sale. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You don't want the strip scar, so come to us. The results be damned.
And you know what? And we see that. What bothers me most is when I read, and I was on the forum today. I usually go on Tuesdays to check things out before the show, and it's the same shit all the time. I mean, all these young guys are like, just talking. They're so invested in the potential of scarless surgery that everything else, the reality is just obliterated. There's some stuff going on with Go and Go that I was reading today. And what's interesting now is that the patients who are coming out, who were originally, these huge cheerleaders, are now, voicing some disappointment. And I think they're still kind of hedging because they don't want to, no one wants to feel like they made a mistake. But
of course. No one wants to be labeled as like you said, the cheerleader turned victim. Right?
But I can guarantee you this, and again, I say this all the time. I have a great relationship with Go and Go. We Skype and we talk about his technique and what's going on online, stuff like that. But But he also knows that I'll say this publicly, that, if my brother-in-law asked me where to go get a hair transplant, I wouldn't tell him to go to the Netherlands to get it done. It's just the way that it is.
Then you look at it like this: if goes multiplication, reproduction of hairs was actually viable, we'd have a Norwood 7 full recovery, or Norwood 2 recovery by now.
Yes,
80% regeneration with each subsequent procedure. That's like, how do the math? An average of let's be conservative and say 6,000 grafts via FUE, each 6,000, then 5,000, then 3,500, then 2,000. You're looking at a lot of hair.
Look, this is the reality of the situation. I've said this so many times. I think that what Dr. Go is doing right now is he's providing very conservative, clean hair transplants, where the downtime is very minimal. There is really little visible scarring, or to no visible scarring, at least for the first 1 or 2 procedures. But it doesn't mean that he's going back in the same area. And if that's what somebody wants, then hell, that's great.
God bless him.
Do your thing, and just go out there and get it done. But I firmly believe that a guy that is performing FUE on a regular basis, say like John Cole or Jim Harris or whomever, Bill Yates, if they decide to use the same size instrumentation that Dr. Go is using, they can create those tiny wounds. They can take out the partial follicles from the scalp, implant them. They're going to get growth, and they're going to get growth in the recipient area and in the donor area, and people are going to come away with the same before and after type of images, And people. I have been criticized from both sides, both camps. There are guys out there who believe that I have somehow been trying to hold Go's procedure back because I want to, somehow preserve the hair transplant industry. And now there are guys who think that, I'm, letting, I'm working with Go. Maybe he's funding this program, or somehow funding our website. It's insanity. It's fucking insanity. Yeah, I couldn't take any money from this guy. I don't recommend the guy. I know how much. I'm sure he's getting a shitload of patients from our site, but I can't take a dime from the guy. So it's funny, but what's interesting is, I think it's interesting that it's starting to kind of come out that, if you want a real conservative hair transplant, you want to pay a decent amount of money for it, then maybe he's the guy to go to.
Yeah, tiny punches, small numbers of grafts, very conservative results. A lot of people are happy with that.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't know
wrong with that at all.
I just don't know if it is. I don't know if it is what they're saying that it is. That's the thing. It hasn't been proven to me, but I'm not the judge, jury, and executioner here. You guys have to make your own fucking decision.
Yeah, people look. I tell people, it's like, no matter what you hear, no matter what you read, no matter what anyone tells you, use your eyeballs. If there's something that's being presented that is unique, that you have not seen presented with anyone else, then you got something, right? It's just common sense in my mind. You got guys saying that they're doing this and doing that, but you look at the results, and it's no different than anything else.
Yeah, but common sense doesn't. Unfortunately, common sense doesn't always enter the equation. Look at these guys who have gotten brandy lifts and flaps and all that shit over the years. Common sense is kind of out the window when it comes to desperation, trying to get your hair back, which is unfortunate.
Well, the desperation also combine that with being talked to by a doctor, which we're trained from birth to trust, right? So you basically got a double whammy working against you. But still, when you're looking online, it's just try to stop and take a moment to really consider what you're looking at, right? How are the photos taken? Is it a number of grafts that's unheard of, that no one else has done, or is it is there something presented that you've never seen before, or is something being presented that is normally only the extreme, and now it's being presented on a regular, consistent basis?
Right.
Right. I mean, you got to look for something that's pushing the industry, obviously, not something that you have to guess at.
You also have to look at the source. You have to look at where it's all coming from. Now, with Go's situation is, the one thing that I have to say about Cohen Go is that he doesn't pander to the online world. He doesn't even approach the online world. Every once in a while, he'll contact me and say, "Hey, listen, I'd like to put something up about what's going on, or I'd like to address an issue." Great, that's fine. But he doesn't go in there into the trenches and battle it out. He's not out there selling his wares. But what is happening is there's a core group of people who are very passionate about the possibility of this being real, and they're kind of blinded to anything else, in my view. They're blinded to potentially thinking, well, maybe this isn't exactly what we think it is, but it's pretty good. It's I'm fine with this, but maybe other people who are out there really looking into different options should be made aware of the reality of what this procedure is. But, you can't even say that. You say that, you get crucified.
Yeah, I mean, just trying to instill some common sense and telling people to slow down and think a bit. You'll get chastised for that. So it's basically a no-win situation. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Look, if it's me, if I'm getting any type of procedure, and as I'm getting older, I am thinking about, at some point, maybe doing something, cosmetically. I don't know, getting some old shit happening around my eyes, whatever it is. And I've been doing some research, and I have to tell you, it's extremely confusing out there. But to me, there's nothing like the tried and true procedures. If someone says that they have a certain device that can do something that Cold Steel has been doing so well for many years, I'm not going to go with that device, man.
Well, look, it's like the best thing I did for myself was finally get repaired and get all my hair back, or a lot of my hair back, and look normal again, right? But the second best thing I did for myself physically through surgery was getting my eyes fixed, because I was blind as a bat since I was 8 years old. I had to put on my glasses just to get out of the damn bed.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Into shit, and people think I was getting beat at home, but I was running into shit. But
wow.
A few years ago, I had my eyes fixed, and I didn't do LASIK. I did PRK, which is the older style.
So basically, you were cut with a scalpel. They kind of open up a flap of your eye, right?
Well, that's with LASIK. LASIK is the newer version where they physically, and it's kind of strange. The newer versions where they do literally lift up the flap of your eye with a blade, zap it, and then let it fold back over, and you immediately have your full vision.
Right.
But with PRK, they don't compromise the integrity of the eye. They don't cut it. They simply dissolve the epithelium, which is the skin-like covering on top of your cornea, and then they zap it, and it takes 2 weeks for it to grow back. But the benefit is that you can still scuba dive, you can still box, you can still do, like if you're a pilot, you can still do high G maneuvers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, the PRK is what pilots get, Navy SEALs.
So what was it like? So what was the healing process like for you?
It was cool. It's like I walked out of the office and I didn't have my contacts in. I didn't have my glasses on. I just had these, grandma sunglasses that were enveloping half my head.
Yeah.
But I could see clearly, even though at the same time everything is focused, but my vision was milky.
Yeah.
And
now, was that a little scary? Was that a little scary at first?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. But
I understand. Go ahead.
About 2 weeks for it to heal up, and then after that, it was just a matter of little fine-tuning adjustments that were happening on their own.
But I understand, and that's a great example, because I'm a believer of that. If something is fresh, if something is new, I am not going to do it. I'm going to research, the older, the tried and true procedures that we know work consistently for many, many years. There are these devices now that basically you see these huge billboards about freezing your fat off. In reality, from what I understand, I've read so many, I'm not going to say horror stories, but people who have been extremely disappointed. And I've spoken to a couple of different cosmetic surgeons or plastic surgeons say about these devices. And, you know, there's nothing like the tried and true methods, especially when it's done correctly. If you wanted to get lipo, remove that fat, get it done right. You know, get it done with when something has years and years of a track record. And sadly, you know, at least with Dr. Go, we kind of know what the long-term track record is, because I have been speaking about Go for 15 years since I started my show. And there was a time when people were, you know, not necessarily happy with some of the FUE work that he was doing. You don't really see much of that old stuff online anymore. But he's definitely evolved his practice to the point where I can honestly say now his work is clean. He's not doing any damage. I have seen from some of his, you know, other doctors, some like directional issues that I've seen. But for the most part, you know, I mean, it's a very reasonable job. It really is at this point. But I don't know if it is what he claims it to be. So to me, if you're going to get a hair transplant, you know, maybe go with someone who's been putting out consistent results for a very long time. That's all. That just makes sense to me.
You know what I think is even funny about what you just said is that most people don't even realize he's been around for 15 years.
Well, he's been around longer.
Around longer, but a lot of people think that he's new on the scene just in the past few years.
But again, you know what? I mean, he's like I said, he's a good guy. He's never. I mean, we've always had very interesting conversations. He's always been very respectful to me and to our community and to what I do. He's always been very thankful for me interviewing him, and as you can see, he uses those interviews, you know, in his marketing. And you know what? Yeah. It's not the end of the world. I mean, I did interview him, and I think that you know, there's no problem with him using those interviews. But you know, on the other side of the coin, you know, anytime I have somebody on the program, anytime I conduct an interview, it kind of adds a certain sense of credibility. Someone asked about Dr. Negum in the chat room, and, you know, I mean, if you guys, you know, the information is out there for you guys to see. If you guys can't see it, then there's nothing I can do. You know what I mean? There's nothing I can say to change your minds, because if I say that so-and-so is not doing what they're claiming to do, then I'm just trying to hold back this technology so that I could, you know, continue to make the fortune that I'm supposedly making, which is incredible. And then if I don't say something, then, you know, like I say, the other side of the camps, the other camps are saying, you know, that I must be working with these guys. So you guys can figure it out yourself. It's all there in black and white. You just have to kind of read between the lines.
It's, I mean, guys like Dr. Negum, I mean, I kept seeing his name pop up on some of the boards, and, you know, I just figured it's just another hair transplant doctor, and then I see the claims, and it's like, oh, great, here's another one, regeneration, and there's nothing I've seen that is different than what anyone else is doing. I just see a before and after with a little bit more hair, and that's it.
Well, I can tell you this, and I don't know, this is hearsay, so this may not be true at all, but I have been contacted by a couple of doctors. One doctor in particular basically just said this guy has absolutely no hair transplant experience. He's relatively new. You know, he goes around and he kind of observes guys and takes everyone's picture and shit like that. And again, I don't know if that's true. He could have been performing hair transplants for 10 years without me knowing about it. This is what people in the industry have said to me. So at this point, it's complete hearsay, and I don't want to state it as fact. But if that is true, then what do we have here? You know, do we have someone who is a potential opportunist, or do we have someone who is like, you know what, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do it through these fucking message forums, which I think is hilarious, you know? I'm going to go on a fucking hair loss message forum and change the world.
I'll go one poster at a time. I will.
Right.
I will change the world.
But these kids, you know, I mean, they're grasping at straws. And you know what? I want it to be true. I swear to God. I want people to say, you know what, Kobren, you were a little cynical. And look, you know, but, you know, thank you for allowing these guys to talk about it on your resource. And that's all. That's why it's being allowed to be put out there, Joe. You know, I'm not here to, I don't want to stifle the information if there's even a slight possibility that it's real. But I also want people to know that they should not be flying down to India to get anything done until they know 100% that this is real. Go ahead, Joe.
You know? Yeah, I'll just say that what you said is absolutely true. No one should be flying to India.
I mean, just God Almighty. God Almighty. All right. Well, I'm going to take another call, Joe. That's it. I'm going to take another call. But I would love for you to be on the show more often because you always add so much because you know what the fuck is really going on. Well, not too many people do.
I feel fortunate that I do get to meet so many great people that come in here as patients and through consultations and surgeries and I do get to see work from a lot of other clinics. Some of it really great work, some of it really 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 bad work, and that part sucks. Obviously, I mean that's not a great part, but I get to talk to these guys. I am in the trenches. I'm the original hair transplant mentor that still works at a clinic.
So you're the OG, man. You are the guy that put all this shit on the map as far as presenting a case the way you presented it online. No one ever did that before you did that. And I don't think that you get enough credit, especially from these young cats who don't know shit about the reality of the evolution of this field. They have no idea what this was like when we started in it.
No, they have no clue, and they're the new generation where they're growing up with the computers and the iPads and such, and it's there for them from the beginning, so that they don't understand where all this was just 10 short years ago.
And they don't understand the evilness of all the misinformation that's spread with this agenda-driven bullshit that's out there. It's this is the dirtiest. I mean, and I'm not even talking about the doctors in the industry. They were dirty enough, but some of the online people, it is fucking nuts.
Well,
And
you and I talked about this, when I was first coming up on the web and being the original mentor and doing my thing, and you were doing your thing. There was hope. There was education. But then eventually, a lot of people caught on to the internet in a negative way, and now we have so much crap.
Oh my God!
That I call you know what I call it? I call it the dumbing down of the internet.
That's right.
We've come full circle. No one knew anything in the beginning, and then everyone started getting educated, and there was a light, a beacon of hope that the industry is going to change for the better, and the bad guys are going to be rooted out and sent packing. But then the bad guys figured out how to manipulate information.
Well, and then
we got just so much crap.
And there were guys once the bad guys understood that there was money to be made, and how to make it. And sadly, part of me is like, I kind of set the tone as far as figuring out a way to kind of grow an industry, kind of like a niche out of, and a career out of this. And then there are other people who then kind of caught on to that, and it's like some of these guys were like really, 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 really bad guys, and the reality of the situation. It's so unfortunate. And now these poor young guys they're so confused. They don't know what's going on. They're being sold so many bill of goods. It's unbelievable.
I know, and unfortunately, I think we're already seeing it here. We're seeing a new generation of repair patients that have made bad decisions based on flimsy evidence or flimsy information, and I'm learning that this happens in waves. I mean, we're seeing a new wave of repair patients that are recent patients of
and bad
procedures. A
lot of bad FUE procedures. A lot of bad stuff happening in Europe.
We started in with SMP. We're doing temporary scalp micropigmentation as trained by Milena Lardy.
Right.
And I'm seeing a lot of guys are trying to get their FUE scars filled in.
Yeah, I know.
Like recent FUE work, and it's kind of sad, actually. I mean, they're.
I just think that people need to understand that no matter what type of hair transplant you're going to have, there's going to be a chance of scarring, okay? Especially if it's going to be a good hair transplant, in my opinion. You know, today's hair transplants, today's state-of-the-art hair transplants cause scars, whether they're really small scars from small punches or a linear scar. But there's going to be a scar, at least today. If you can't deal with that, if you want to wear your hair extra, extra short, or maybe shave it, you might want to forget about even having a hair transplant. If you're going to be,
that's what I tell people.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want complete freedom to do whatever you want, just don't get surgery of any kind.
But that's not good. People don't want to hear that shit. They want to believe, man. They want to believe what they're reading online by some poster, who may or may not have had surgery, may or may not be working for a specific clinic, whatever. They just want to believe. And, when you're young and you're dumb and you're full of you-know-what, you got a couple of bucks in your pocket or you can get some financing, you say, fuck it, I want to live my life. And I understand that. But, God, I don't know, Joe, no matter how much we preach, who knows if it's, there's always going to be a group of people who really understand that and appreciate the type of stuff that we're doing. And then there are those who somehow think that maybe what we're saying is not in their best interest, and maybe, these other guys, these anonymous people are correct. And sadly, all these guys are coming back in droves saying that they fucked up.
There's a new expert born every day.
That's what the internet's all about, man. And sometimes it's interesting and a little sad to watch. But listen, Joe, I appreciate the call as usual. Joe Tillman from Hassan and Wong, the OG hair transplant mentor. Why don't you give out your website, Joe? I always forget it. I don't know how. It's probably hairtransplantmentor.com, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Too much wine, dude. I'm not even drinking tonight. All right, man. Listen, don't be a stranger, all right?
Yeah, I'll call in again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
All right, buddy.
All right,
Good talking
take care.
to you.
All right. 888-659-3727 is the phone number. Let me take a quick call, and then I have to take a break. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, this is Jerry.
Jerry.
In the chat room.
Hey, Jerry, what's happening, man?
Hey, how's it going?
I can't complain. What's happening? I should pot up Joe, huh?
Yeah, you probably should pot up Joe. Is he on hold?
Yeah. Joe, you there?
Hey, my boyfriend and pen pal Jerry, man, with our
Hey, Joe. Me and Joe are pen pals, all right?
Besides you, who has my email address?
So you guys communicate with each other. That's very disturbing and fascinating at the same time.
And we'll meet next
we're more like pen pals. You know what I mean? It's not. It's just kind of seeing how you're doing back and forth because we only get to talk a couple times a week.
Well,
you know what I mean? So this way we're in constant communication.
Pals, you never know.
Oh,
you what?
Jesus. Joe.
So when you come to New York, we may be more than pen pals. You never know.
Oh, Jesus.
Hey, it might happen.
Just
When we go to New York, it's going to be a few pills, a few beers, and maybe a tranny.
Yeah, you know how rich I am. I'm going to buy you a steak dinner.
And that steak buffet you were talking about.
So, Jerry, what's up, man? What can I do for you?
I was just like I thought your guys' conversation was interesting. I was just kind of like wondering about how did these doctors, and I was kind of asking Jotronic in the chat room, and I was hoping it would just come up, but didn't come up. How do these doctors even stay in business? Some of these doctors that are giving people a bad product consistently.
Are you kidding me, man?
Anybody that gives a bad product consistently doesn't stay in business.
And that's
how these guys are.
That's what you think. But sadly, in medicine, it's just, especially when it comes to cosmetic surgery. I mean, look at the large chain clinics. Look at when I first got out, when I first came out in this industry, I went buck wild, man. I was just fucking telling it like it was, talking about the large chain clinics, really going out there and just swinging. And you know what? It certainly made an impact. We've changed a lot of lives. And those large chain clinics really evolved and changed the infrastructure of their practice based on that pressure and now the online pressure. But it wouldn't have made a difference anyway because there's so many walking wounded that, with enough advertising, the fact that 200,000 of us wake up every day realizing we're losing our hair, they stayed in business because they were out there. Some of these companies have become part of the fabric of our culture. when we think of hair loss, what do you think of? You think of some of these large chain clinics. You think of the Hair Club, for instance. That's the way that it is. You know, when you,
you know, and it's funny because like when I first started trying to figure out treatments, I was getting on Finasteride, and I got on 2.5 milligrams, and then I found a doctor that prescribed it to me, and I went to the pharmacist, and he was telling me that's not going to work, and he's like, I'm going to Bosley in like 2 weeks, you know what I mean? And this was probably 6 years ago. I don't know how they were. Never saw him again. He said he was going to fly out to Dallas for his Bosley treatment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you guys were around then. I just don't.
That's a pharmacist.
And I also read something online where a doctor was saying, here's the best way to tell. He's like, if a doctor is getting business, people keep coming, then that shows that the doctor's doing something right. Because if people weren't coming, the doctor's not doing something right. So a doctor that consistently gets business has to be doing something positive.
That's bullshit.
It's like in any business.
Maybe that it may have been it may have been a good doctor who wrote that, but that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
In this industry, that is complete bullshit. You know, it's more difficult now for the doctors who are producing bad results because of the online world. But you know, the truth is, there's a lot of ways to kind of talk yourself out of that. There's always a lot of misinformation being put online and competitors bashing each other, shit like that. So, you know, if someone is able to sell themselves well, and even if they're not a great doctor, they can still make a living. Listen, there are guys out there who have reinvented themselves, who were known as like major butchers, and they're out there again making a living. There are guys who are out there
doing something else. And is Gary Hitzig, as you guys always mention him, it sounds like he's kind of changed the way he's making money now. But I always picture him as one of those guys, based off of other people's conversations, that has been through, like, butchered a lot of people.
Well, I can tell you this.
It seems like Joe went to him for the ACell. You know what I mean? So
I can tell you this. That Gary Hitzig is one of the doctors that I really laid into when I first got on the radio. He was the only physician that, you know, sued me because of what I was saying. But the truth is, I think the only reason I haven't been sued by the big boys or whatever it is because everything that there's, my defense was always truth. So, you know, that lawsuit was very interesting because I ended up defending myself pro se, and they ended up pulling out and conceding, and saying, basically the settlement that we settled on was that I was not able to speak about him in a derogatory fashion for more than half my show, which was hilarious to me. But, because basically I was doing a 2-hour show, so what I could have, bashed Gary Hitzig for 2 hours, for an hour.
Every week, over an hour.
But I chose not to. But the point that I'm trying to make is I don't know what Gary's doing now. Maybe he had some sort of epiphany after everything that went down, and I'm not hearing a lot of complaints from patients from Gary Hitzig anymore. But people are able to reinvent themselves or continue on either working under another umbrella, maybe just being hired and being absorbed into a company, for instance, like one of the large chain companies. There have been some individuals out there that had a really bad reputation that ended up, getting involved with the larger chain companies, and they're being fed patients, doing the job, and people don't think about the particular doctor's name. They're looking up the company's name. So that's... go ahead.
But what you're saying is basically eventually the cookie crumbles, and eventually, though, they're revealed for kind of, you know what I mean? Is that because that's basically what's happened in that case?
I agree.
That's basically what happened.
I agree. Eventually,
it does happen that way usually.
Eventually, the cookie does crumble, but sometimes it takes longer to figure it out.
Okay.
And it really depends on if they can make lateral moves. There's a lot of ways to get around it, and I've known doctors who've changed their names. Is that fucking crazy?
Yeah, just
completely legally change their names.
Yeah, it kind of goes with what like Jotronic was saying, because we're always like taught. Because even I'm not really a candidate for a hair transplant right now, and it's not really something I'm trying to do alternative ways before I get to that point. We'll see what happens, but we're always like kind of trained to like trust doctors no matter what. And like he brought up his eye surgery, and I kind of did that too. I had the LASIK surgery, and I went in there. The doctor told me I was a candidate. There were other people in the waiting room, so I thought that was a good sign.
Right.
He said he had done a bunch of procedures. He was the cheapest in town. So I went in on Thursday, called him on Friday, and I had the surgery on Monday. You know what I mean? Luckily, it turned out all right. My eyes eventually adjusted, but there was nothing crazy, you know. But he's no longer here. I don't know where he went. I don't know what happened to him. You know what I mean? But it could have been like one of those situations that you're describing where he kind of has to move on to a new territory. Or, you know, maybe he's just one of those doctors who gives you a quick sell. And that's another thing. I mean, I'm kind of getting to the point after listening to the show, any doctor that tries to sell you anything, I'm kind of like thinking maybe you shouldn't go do anything with that doctor. You know what I mean?
Well, I can tell you this. Any doctor that, in my view, that maybe spends a few minutes during a consult and then sends you to his salesperson, the salesperson says something like, you know, well, we have an opening now. If we get you in now, you know, we can get you a discount or, you know, and any type of pressure whatsoever, even if you think they're the best doctor in town, I would just walk away, man. I don't trust any fucking doctor. And I work with doctors.
I used to trust all of them, you know, and I think listening to the show has gotten to where, like, I don't even trust family practitioners. You know what I mean? I just have to really question what they're all doing, and like, because they all want to keep me coming to their office so they can charge me a fee.
Look, I recently
I
went to a urologist not too long ago, and this happened twice, and I've actually switched urologists 2 times because of this. I have my pants down. The guy recognizes me. He's holding my junk, basically, and he's asking me about hair transplants. All right? Now, this is a doctor. He's supposed to be professional. Even if he recognizes me, he's got my junk in his hand.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, Jesus Christ.
But, I mean, that's not unethical. It's not professional. But
No,
you know
it's not unethical, but it just kind of shows there's a much stronger human aspect to physicians than people realize. You know?
Yeah, and I didn't realize that until the last, like, you know, probably just since I've been listening to this show. There's, like, this girl at work that showed up with, she got this weird calcium deposit, like, removed from her leg or something, and I was like, I just thought it was such an unnecessary surgery. But she's like, well, the doctor told me I should do it. And I was like, shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? It just seems like you really have to question in general what they're going to get out of this, and like if it's really necessary. You know what I mean? Whether it's a hair transplant or LASIK eye surgery.
Look, there are, and you're right, but you have to. With all that said, there are some guys who are really skilled at what they do, and there's still very caring doctors out there. But still, man, you know, like with my dad, for instance, you know, the last time he was in the hospital for a long period of time, I went back to New York for a month, and I stayed there with him. And if I wasn't his advocate, I can't even tell you how many fucked up procedures this guy was going to have that were completely unnecessary. So I had to make some really major calls where, you know, at one point, in order to get him out of the hospital and into a recovery facility, because he was on a certain type of medication, they wanted to put a kind of like I forgot what it's called, but it's kind of like a stent that actually goes through an artery through his chest. And, you know, so they can, you know, pump this medication into him. And it could be, you know, it doesn't seem like a major operation, but it could cause infection. It's totally unnecessary in my view. And I said, you know what? We're not going to do that. And like, well, he's going to end up having to stay in the hospital longer. I said, you know what? He'll stay in the hospital for a couple of extra days. Doctor comes in to me at the end of my dad's stay, and he said, you know what? If that were my father, there's another doctor, I would have made the exact same decision.
Yeah.
A lot of these young doctors work academically. They're thinking about the academic aspects of of how they practice medicine as opposed to the practical aspects. And, you know, it's just the way that medicine is. So anything you decide to do, you have to just, first of all, you're taking a chance with anything, you know, that you decide to do, whether it's cosmetic or whatever it is. But you really have to kind of know what you're getting into and realize that there's always a chance for human error. There's always a chance for the guy has a hangover or had a bad fight with his wife the morning before your procedure. There's a real human aspect to all of this. And if you don't realize that these people are not machines and there's always a possibility of getting fucked up, then you shouldn't have anything done.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like, you know, I can kind of put myself in like Johnny's shoes or Joe's shoes, kind of because you're already seriously dealing with, like, whether it's an insecurity or whether it's keeping you from doing what you want to do, or, whether it's how other people react towards you.
Right.
You've decided to go into surgery to do something, and then after you're done with it, I mean, is it like right away you just like, what the hell did I just do? You know what I mean? Is that what? I was just curious, like, how did Joe?
Joe, what do you say to that, Joe? Are you awake?
After you had that surgery,
I didn't realize I was fired up.
Yeah. What do you think about what
You
Jerry?
what?
What do you think about what Jerry just said?
I don't think Jerry should do anything. I mean, when I meet him in person, if he's not wearing a hat and a bandage, I'll analyze his hair. I'm not a physician. I'll give my expert opinion on it if he wants me to.
Well, no, I don't. That's not his question.
That's not the question.
Listen to his question, Joe.
All right, so I was just curious, like, when did you get your hair transplant? Like, how old were you?
I was 21 years old.
Jesus.
And so you went in, and you were obviously dealing with it
10 different times.
Bothering you bad enough to go through the surgery. And then what was it like when that you found out? I don't know if it's a bandage, if it's a week. You know what I mean? When do you find out that it wasn't what you thought it was, and like, how did you react to that?
Within a year, went into total depression. I changed my lifestyle. I was going to be a Wall Street stockbroker. As you know, Spencer, I possess an MBA,
which is amazing.
I graduated magna cum laude from college with a 3.75 cumulative average. I was brilliant. I'm not trying to brag. And I became a lousy cop just to keep my head covered. My whole life was destroyed over having surgery. If I had a choice to do it all over again, I'd shave my head.
So you didn't plan on becoming a cop, though, before the hair transplant?
The only reason I became a cop was to have a job where I could cover my head at all times.
You know, Jerry, it sounds bizarre, but that's not an uncommon story. You know, when I was doing the show on terrestrial radio, we would get some of the craziest calls. And, you know, you remember, Joe, this one guy that became a recluse.
Yeah, from Rotary Phone.
Yeah, I never heard those. I'd like to hear about that guy and the guy that
that's about like 10 years ago.
Yeah, and the other guys, one guy that called in, same as Joe, he actually had some sort of I think he had a bachelor's degree, but he was going to go into some other field, and he ended up, his dad ended up buying him a potato chip route in New York. So basically, he could just wear a hat and just have his own business and, you know, deliver Wise potato chips or whatever to all different stores, which is not a terrible living. But, I mean, it's not what he decided. It's not what he wanted to do. He changed his career path because of his hair loss and because of bad hair transplant. So many guys are like that.
How he was acting. Just imagine how, like, the confidence when he was dealing with people every day. You know what I mean? And he can't attract the same type of woman he probably could have before just because his confidence is so
absolutely.
Listen, you know what I mean?
There are certain guys online that spend a lot of time in the online world who I believe if they had the opportunity to listen to a program like this before they made the decision to have the hair transplant and flaps and lifts and all the stuff that some of these people do or did back in the day, they would have a much different perspective of life. And they would have a much better, understanding of, I think, of what we do here at The Bald Truth. Joe's role, which, I get guys, there are guys who despise Joe and there are guys who love Joe. But Joe is part of this program.
What's the ratio, Spencer?
I don't know. I say 50-50. No, I'm just kidding. I'd say I'd say more people love you. But the reason Joe's on the show, even though I get, and I've told you this, Joe, doctors will write me or people, Joe's boring. He talks about the same shit all the time, whatever it is. And then there's the guys that love you and understand you. There's a part of Joe in everybody. And it's important that people see what happened to Joe's life. For all the new guys that just tune into the show, see, there's this 50-something-year-old guy out there who has been so destroyed by hair loss and bad surgery to boot that he kind of put a hold on his life. And, I kind of use you as an example, Joe. I hope this doesn't make you feel bad, to kind of show these guys that this is not what you want to turn into. You're a great guy, Joe. You're a smart guy. You're funny, and in person, you're different than most people would think you are. But you allowed this to destroy your life. And we're trying to keep people from doing what you did.
But Spencer, let me pose one question to you. Where would I be today if I had really disfiguring surgery like some people have, which obviously I haven't had?
Right.
Well, where would I be today? I'd probably be dead.
You would be dead because your surgery, while it wasn't great, it wasn't that terrible.
I'd say I had horrific surgery, like some people have had. Where would I be today?
Well, a guy with your specific personality and, the fact that you're prone to depression and different, type of psychoses, who knows? You might not be around. So, Jerry, are you excited? Jerry, after that spiel, are you excited to meet Joe?
Yeah, we're gonna go hang out. I guess Andrew's gonna come, and we're gonna. I don't know. We have to.
I'm gonna buy him a nice Tad steak, Spencer.
Say it again.
Yeah, I don't know about that steakhouse though.
Dude,
Joe.
you're not taking the. Don't take him to Tad steak. Come on.
I can't take Uncle Jack's. No hats.
All right, so take him to.
There's other steakhouses where you can wear a hat.
Take him to Morton's on 45th Street.
You remember wear a hat there, so there's no problem with that.
Yeah, you can wear a hat there. Take him to Morton's on 45th Street. They changed their atmosphere a little bit. There's no more Frank Sinatra. It was bought out by a big company. But the food is still fantastic. They kind of upgraded the menu a little bit. The bar is still great there, so you guys can meet at the bar. It's dark, so if there's a little romance happening, I think it'll be it's conducive to that.
I think Andrew's going to be there too, though.
Well,
Andrew's going to be...
I'm sorry, could you email me where I could get me and Jerry can get some transsexual hookers? We have, interest in that.
Well, honestly, I don't know where you can get transsexual hookers, but there is a place that moved. It used to be on 29th Street. That I think it moved to the west side, 11th Avenue. That
Write this down, Jerry.
That Chauncey Hayden really enjoyed and talked about an experience he had in there. I think it's called Idlewise.
And Chauncey's straight. Chauncey Hayden's straight.
Apparently, at least that's what he says. He's straight. He's been married. He bangs around a lot. But I think he might have an affinity towards. Listen, I don't know if that's true or not. He stated on a program that I was on with him that he thought that some of these transsexuals were hot. That's all. I don't know what his situation is.
He said that he could go in the back and do whatever he wanted with them. So, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe I think Andrew should bring Chauncey along, and actually Chauncey can show you guys where to go for that shit.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I met Chauncey at Blog World. I found him to be a little bit odd, to be honest with you.
Well, you know what? If you're looking for transsexuals in New York, Joe, maybe he's the guy to hang out with.
Well, Jerry and me have a common interest,
and Chauncey, if you're listening, I don't know if that's true or not. You just happen to mention it on the show, so that's why they're talking about you. So
I was actually going to...
Jerry, some pharmaceutical agents also, Jerry,
Do what?
I'll introduce you to some pharmaceutical agents.
By the way, how old are you, Jerry?
28.
You're 28. So you're
I can be Jerry's father.
You're probably like an RU guy and a guy that's using all this stuff, right?
Well, yeah, you know that. Yeah, I am.
How is RU? Let's talk about that. So how is RU working for you? And do you think?
I gotta tell you, it's working pretty well.
Now, do you think you're getting legitimate batches all the time, or is it sometimes you do and sometimes you don't?
The batches, I think, is a little overhyped. Personally, I think that I think the hard part is just. I think RU is so easy to make these days for so many different people. I think the hard one that people are having trouble making is CB. That's the one that it seems like most people are excited about.
Yeah.
And I've seen people's pictures and I've seen good results with CB.
Now, how much progress have you think positive progress have you made with RU?
Pretty good. My hair is thickened up, but also keep in mind I'm on dutasteride as well.
Yeah, so it's really hard.
So I never.
So
I'm on dutasteride as well.
So you're throwing in the kitchen sink, and so
Yeah.
Look.
Well, with the kitchen sink with anti-androgens, I don't mess with anything else at this point. I'm not doing any growth stimulants.
How about how about sexual side effects?
Oh yeah, it has. You're going to get sides with RU. In my opinion, I think that if you read people's posts well enough, if they had sides with finasteride, there's a reasonable chance that they're going to have, I think, with sides with RU as well. If you look at Maradona's posts and that long RU tab,
right,
or that RU thread in All Truth Talk, it's a guy named Maradona. If you read him, he had sides with everything else, and then he had RU for a while, and then he had sides from it. So
now what about you personally?
I can tell a little bit of a damper on my libido when I'm on RU, just like I could with dutasteride. You know what I mean? But I think it's foolish for anybody to. I wouldn't recommend RU to. I would recommend for people to take the FDA-approved drugs first.
Right.
See if those work for you. Just because sometimes I'm concerned about what RU is really going to do, because people have this perception that it doesn't absorb systematically, and that's just not true at all. There's no way you put it on top of your head and you can tell it's kind of absorbed. And there's a lot of guys who've had this situation come up. A lot of guys are buying this really 1%, 2% stuff from this website that's already pre-mixed.
Yeah.
And you really have no idea what's in that.
I know.
And 1% and 2% is such a weak, and I can't think of anybody that I've seen that's gotten results from that stuff. So,
we had a British journalist that actually did a BBC documentary that was on the Bald Truth UK and some other stuff.
Yeah, I saw that.
And there are, he said something that I thought was pretty profound, and I certainly believe this too. While I don't necessarily agree with what all of these young guys are doing, and you got to do what you got to do with your life. It's your head. So I think that, I have no problem with that. He did state that, maybe you guys are kind of like the pioneers in the hair loss community. You guys are kind of taking that bullet for everybody else.
Are.
Yeah.
I'm more of an emulator of the pioneers. Like, I'll just find something that, I believe that other people are being legit, that's working for them. And maybe I'll try that after they've tried it for a while.
Well, but you're also going to be out there. You're going to be able to document your results, or at least talk about it. Say you call the program. You've talked about your results, and you think you're getting positive results from your combination of dutasteride and RU. You're also talking about publicly the possible side effects. So this is really, I think, a pioneering process. People have been discussing RU58841 since I got into this field. I'm talking back in 1997, 1998. And
that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that it doesn't have longevity to it, because it works so quick, and it's just a topical. I'm just worried that your body, it doesn't really do much fundamentally. I've seen people that it wears off really quick.
Well, I will tell you this. I will tell you this, that in all the years that I've been doing this, and all the people that I followed using RU, I have never known anyone who has stayed on it for a long period of time. And I don't know what the reasons were, to tell you the truth.
I've heard people on the forums, but I've also have reason to believe that some people in the forums are partial to the supplier.
Oh my God! There's one supplier out there that gets so much press on Bald Truth Talk. It's insane. And
it's one of two of them. Only two of them have websites.
Again, it's kind of like, do you want to stifle that information, or is that information dangerous? I honestly don't know. I haven't known anyone in the years that I've been doing this that has really written about being permanently harmed by it, or you mentioned that one poster that said
that heart attack guy.
Yeah, I mean, who even knows if that's true? Who knows what happened?
I doubt it.
I mean, who the hell knows? It's the fucking internet, man.
I've read the post, and I just don't see something like this causing a heart attack or like permanent heart damage in like 3 days. That's what he was claiming. You know what I mean? So a lot of people, but I mean, the stuff definitely has an effect to it. I think that the people that are trying to, what's that other drug that people are, serotonin or whatever?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a natural DHT inhibitor, but the fact is you're still inhibiting DHT. And it's not the chemical part that's causing side effects. It's the inhibition of the DHT. You know what I mean? So if they're going to get sides from that too, if they get sides from finasteride.
Well, I agree. Listen, you know how many people get sides from saw palmetto and Pygium africanum?
Yeah, I imagine. I've never tried that, but
so people think because it comes from Nature's Pharmacy, you're not going to get sides. It's safe, and that's the way that it's sold, to the general public. But people are getting just as many sides, at least from what I understand, using those products for hair loss as they do with finasteride. Who knows if they cause permanent problems? I don't think they do. But, I mean, people have to be aware of this and not think, okay, we're staying away from the evil drug poison finasteride and putting this stuff topically on, and it's not going to act in a systemic fashion. If it's a drug that is capable of absorbing the skin, and most of these topical preparations are, then there's going to be some systemic effect. Period. That's just the way that it is.
Going back to that interview you had with that British journalist.
Yeah.
What was his name again?
Julian Jenkins.
Okay, I listened to that, and I was just kind of like, I heard the follow-up interview he had with you guys, and he was like, well, they can put whatever they want on their head, but that's not the tone I got from the interview itself.
Yeah.
The tone I got was like,
these guys are nuts.
We're doing some sort of highly illegal. I mean, that OC stuff is going to be for asthma. How bad could it be to put on your head? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He went to the CEO of OC, and he told them, did you have any idea this was going on? You know what I mean? And he called up the supplier and was like, just so he could get him in trouble, when, in fact, OC is one of the things I don't even see anybody getting results with, honestly.
That's the thing. The guy's a journalist, and that's what these guys do. That's it. He's got to make a sexy...
It just seemed a little bit more partial than when his follow-up interview. I didn't see the...
Well, I think the follow-up interview with us is he was just trying to be conversational and have fun, and realize that we just do when we do the Bald Truth UK, when I do with Specs, it's kind of a relaxed show, and his piece for the BBC was very serious, very English, very British, I should say. I thought he was. I thought it was good. I love the fact that he covered the forums, and he covered, obviously the show, and he kind of touched on things that most of these mainstream journalists don't really touch on when they talk about hair loss. But I certainly see what you're saying, and it was almost like he wanted to. It was kind of like a gotcha situation. And
yeah, kind of. Even though I doubt they will or can do anything, anyways. I mean, you're talking about China here. You're dealing with Chinese government.
Right.
You know what I mean? The American government can't even do anything with the Chinese government. You really think that? You know what I mean? It's just not. It just doesn't work that way.
No, but it made his piece sexier. So that's the only reason it was done. It's not as though they're going to actually take any action.
Yeah.
But listen, Jerry, man, I'm glad you called in. I have to say goodnight to everybody. Joe, do you want to say goodbye to Jerry?
Are you trying to take my job or what, man?
Joe, I'm just. I don't know. If I took your job, I would. I don't even know what to say to that. No, I'm not trying to take your job.
I'm teasing you, Jerry. You know how rich I am.
Hey, Joe, we're still on though, right? July.
Definitely so. We can't say where, but it's Spencer in town. You can come too, Spencer. I got you a nice tad steak, man.
It'll never happen. I will never be in the same room with you and Jerry alone. If I am in town, I would certainly love to hang out with you guys. If Andrew's coming, and obviously that would be fun, and maybe we can get Chauncey.
Well, I appreciate that, Spencer. I hope the billing too much for you. I hope you could afford it. I don't know what your income is, but I hope you could afford it.
Well, maybe you could help me out, Joe.
Help me out, Joe. We all know you're rich. You make $70,000.
I'll put a couple hundred down.
Or maybe you guys could all chip in for the tad steak from me.
No, we'll go to Morton, Spencer.
All right, we'll figure it out.
You know what, Spencer? We'll pay if you give us the secret cure that you're holding back.
Okay.
I'm just kidding, Spencer. My practice is you to use it against us.
That if I'm sitting there across from Jerry, he's going to be staring at my hairline the whole fucking night. I won't be comfortable. That's what's going to happen.
I'm pretty sure I have a good idea of your hairline. It's what is it in like a Norwood?
You don't know what you ate.
I don't even know, honestly, at this point, because I cover it so much here now. It's approaching a 3, probably.
Jerry, you see him in person, you think the guy's wearing a wig. That's how thick his hair is.
I would think that. I have a lot of hair now too. I mean, I've grown a lot. I was about like probably a little worse than Coco at certain points, and it's kind of reversed a little bit in the past 3.
Jerry, I'll examine you if you want me to examine you. I'll examine you all over if you want. I mean, your hair. That's what I meant.
Joe, we're gonna have to set some boundaries when we go on this trip.
Well, you said we're going to trip. I said we give Manhattan for dinner. That's what I said.
All right, guys, we got to close up shop. Stop flirting, guys in the chat room. Thanks for saying that my hair looks good. I appreciate that.
So, Spencer, when you're doing your next show, you'll be posting it on the Bald Truth, so we know. How's that going to work?
What next show? The next live show? I'll let you guys know.
I'm asking you when. I'm asking you, will you be posting it so we know ahead of time? Will you be emailing me on a chat room, maybe?
Dude, you're going to know when I do the next live show. We'll figure it out.
Well, I obviously did the live show tonight. Was it breaking news, right? Was that part of it?
No. I happened to be in Los Angeles, and I told you when I'm in LA, I'm going to be doing the show.
When you come to New York, Spencer, if you have time, call me. I'll buy you dinner, man.
I will. I'll let you know. All right, guys, listen, I got to go. As far as the Cole interview, I contacted Cole again last week. He said he was going to call me. It didn't happen. I don't know what to tell you guys. He keeps saying he wants to do it. He wants to do it. He's busy. He's out of town, this and that. He's going to call me tomorrow. Whatever. You know? So I will talk to you guys next time. Jerry, thanks for the call. I'm going to let you guys go.
Great call, Jerry. Thank you, Spencer, and thank you for doing the Showtime. For many people listening now, I want to say thank you.
All right, you got it, man. Take it easy. Website's thebaldtruth.com. Of course, to check out archives of the Bald Truth show, both the Bald Truth and the Bald Truth UK. We'll be doing some more Bald Truth UK programs in the next few weeks, so stay tuned for those. For the message forum, check out baldtruthtalk.com if you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers. But please, please, don't spend so much time on there, guys. Go in, check some information out, ask a couple of questions if you need some help, and then move on with your life, come back in a month. Don't spend your life on the fucking message forum. And, of course, the American Hair Loss Association, you can check out AmericanHairLoss.org. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you.